Hello, I'm Theresa with Garden Party Flower Farm and, of course, Open Food Network Canada. And today we're going to talk about building a relationship with a florist and a flower shop. How do you find them? How do you build that relationship? How do you prepare the flowers? Which flowers are best? So stick around. So, hi, folks. Here I am in Cameron's Flower Shop, which just won an award.
Best flower shop in Waterloo
Best
region.
flower shop in Waterloo, many years running.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's exciting. And today we're going to talk about selling flowers to florists with a bit of an emphasis on flower shops in particular. So we'll introduce ourselves to start. I think people might know me. I'm Theresa, Garden Party Flower Farm and Open Food Network. And in my business, I have sold pretty much exclusively to designers and florists over the last 10 years or so, a little more recently with Haley.
Yeah. I first started as a design studio working with Theresa. I've been in the industry for almost 10 years now. And more recently, I acquired a flower shop, and we've been bringing in local flowers into the flower shop and trying to support as much as we can.
And that's what inspired this idea, because over the course of the last couple of years, I've discovered that it's a little bit different selling to a flower shop than designers. And these aren't mutually exclusive, because Haley does lots of design stuff too.
Yep.
So flower shops do that as well. But we're going to go through some of the differences, and we're going to talk about how to find each other for local farms and florists, how to get to know each other, how to build relationships. We'll talk about some quality issues. We'll talk about some of the flowers that work and some of the flowers that don't work. So maybe we start by talking a little bit about the diverse kinds of businesses that we're talking about when we're talking about flower farms and when we're talking about designers and florist shops. Because for flower farms, it could be anything from somebody growing in their backyard, maybe someone who has never sold wholesale or to a shop before, to someone who has multiple acres, and this is their livelihood. This is how they earn their living, selling flowers to designers and florists. So you can imagine that the difference between those two scales is pretty significant. So if you're looking to be a flower shop that works with local farms, it seems to me that's one of the key things to figure out. If their scale is what you need, or if they're starting out, maybe you want to just try some sample products first.
Yeah.
But similarly, designers can be different scales.
Yeah.
And so you kind of want this match. For example, in my business, I'm retiring now, but I was earning my livelihood from selling to designers and florists. So I was looking for larger shops, larger designers, reliable, every week purchasing. But a smaller farm might not want that, might not be able to supply that. And that must get frustrating if you're in a partnership with someone and then they can't ever supply what you want.
Yeah, I would say that would be frustrating.
So you probably don't want to go in there.
I think like when you're looking to have this partnership, like you want to find someone who's kind of at the same stage that you are. If you're a new grower, then find someone who's new to bringing in local product. Because then you get to grow together. We'll talk a little bit about that through this as well. But there's a lot of growing together and educating together that has to kind of take place. So I think finding something that goes well on a scale would be the first place to start.
Exactly. Matching together. And I think the first thing that comes to people's mind when they're thinking of selling flowers to florists and designers is pricing. I was at a workshop just yesterday, and again, that was the first question from the audience is, how do I find out my pricing? I wish there was an easy answer to that. But, your pricing is just that. It's your pricing. And you need to explore it. You need to figure it out. There's lots of things you can do to start you out. You'll see other resources from Open Food Network on some sample pricing, some examples that have come from flower hubs across Canada. They're just starting points, though. A lot of people will subscribe to different wholesaler lists so that they can see those prices. One of the things I found useful starting out was I became a member at OFG, so Ontario Flower Growers Co-op. That gave me access to historic prices at the co-op. That was very, very useful. So those kinds of things are helpful. Talking to your colleagues, really trying not to undercut your colleagues is a good thing. We see this happening, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What's your perspective on pricing and the pricing you're seeing from farmers?
I think that if you have a shop that's in your area and you want to sell to that shop, maybe that's where you start of trying to figure out, well, what are they selling things for? And you can kind of work backwards.
Yeah.
There's a standard to what flower shops in the industry should be charging. That's not to say that they won't charge more or less, but there is a known industry standard. And same with design studios. Like there's a standard that like all across the board. And so I would see what they're currently selling to their customers, and then working your way backwards to see what that might charge and what that might look like. Again, if you're super new to selling to a flower shop and you have a shop that wants to learn with you, then I would talk together and come up with those together to see what that might look like and how it would be mutually beneficial. But I think there can be a huge range in different farms. And as a flower shop, that's one of the things that I would be specifically looking at is like, what's the difference? If you're out by like a whole 50 cents to $1 from another farm, well, why? Is the quality there to justify that?
It's a good point because with people selling in some of the wholesale hubs that exist now, often the buyer will see, 2 different Cosmos stems, and one will be listed at $1.40, one will be listed at 95 cents.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's no description there to explain that, the person selling for $1.40 is going to kind of be out of luck because everybody's going to go with the 95 cents until the designer gets to know who you are, because a Cosmos stem is not a Cosmos stem.
Yeah.
Could be branched, could be just one flower, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to describe your product.
Yeah.
Make it really clear.
Yeah.
Maybe we should talk about a little bit about getting the flowers into the shop.
Yeah.
So again, remember, this is your business. How do you want to do it? What's going to work for you? How are you going to sell? For me, I never went the route of loading up a vehicle and driving around to flower shops. Farmers do that, and designers like that, right?
All my suppliers, they all come to me. I don't go anywhere. I personally don't have the time to do that. So offering delivery is a huge bonus if you're willing to do that. And driving around with a car full of product, it's a great way for your first year to get people to see what you're offering.
You'll sell it. You'll sell it if it's quality. And you know what? It gives you a back door, literally, into the flower shop. And when you're there, you can peek at what else they've got and the quality, and note to self, I can do that. I can't do that.
Yeah.
You can ask them questions. Do you move a lot of that product? What about this? Do you use this?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good opportunity to do that. I never did that. Not that it's a bad idea. It just never suited me because I really only wanted to harvest to order. So I only wanted, partly because my cooler's small, so I didn't have room to store anything more than what was already ordered. Mm-hmm. So I never worked in a way that let me load up a vehicle and drive around. But it's not to say it can't be done. Mm-hmm. But you could choose. You could do both things. If you sell to pre-order, you need to be prepared to forecast your harvest a little bit more. You can't just see what's available Wednesday. People need to know in advance.
Yeah, I'd say that's really frustrating on a designer's side when you're looking for certain product for like a wedding or an event that you have coming up and you want to get that locked in. It's really like when I first started and that's what I was doing, it was really difficult for me to understand and put designs together, because if I make this design and it's everything I need it to be, and then I go to a farmer and I'm like, I think that you have this product, but you can't guarantee it to me, or not even a guarantee, because I know that, we're dealing with nature here. But if there's no way to really kind of get a solid answer that like, yeah, you're going to have that, or like you were saying to me, we would work together on like 80% chance I'm going to have that. It's a little late by the time that week comes around to have to source it from a wholesaler. So that's where the really frustrating part comes into play, when you don't know what you're going to have available.
And I think it's really important when you are, I call them advance orders or pre-orders, taking a pre-order. I mean, I will always say, as Sally said, oh, you want three bunches of brown lisianthus the second week in September. Now, I know that they tend to be early. I don't know if I'll still have them, and I'll just be right up front and I'll say, but I'll tell you what, 2 weeks out I'll know. I'll be able to tell then, and I can get back to you. So you can take tentative orders, but it does require a lot of communication, and that's really a key.
You have to set the expectations right off the bat, because otherwise you're just setting yourself and the designer who's relying on you up for failure, and there in part becomes the customer complaint, and that designer's not going to continue using you.
Yeah. Or offer multiple solutions. Like end of the season is tough because late September, October is often a busy time, and your harvest might be starting to trail off a little bit. And someone might want, a bucket of cosmos, and I'll be able to say, I don't know, my cosmos could be done. I don't have any in the greenhouse, but I know that I'll have fallen enemy, and it could kind of stand in for cosmos depending on what you're doing. So know your product. You're the expert in your product. You are the only expert in your product. And know what's coming. And you build that over experience. I don't think there's anybody who can list all that out for you in the beginning.
Yeah, which is why I think you want to find a designer who's like getting into using local flowers and kind of figuring that out as you're figuring it out. Because if I go to someone who's just starting off growing and they don't have those answers to me, it's going to be really hard for me to want to be working with them. It's just because I'm looking for a different level of knowledge at that point. Yeah,
and I think one thing that I learned is just being really transparent and really honest. I think sometimes because we're in this social media mode, we put out a lot of facades. We put out a lot of pictures and images that, well, they've been manicured a little bit. And we make websites that, well, they maybe extend things a little bit. But when you're trying to build a relationship with a wholesale buyer, you got to cut through that. You can't do that. You got to be really honest. A couple of years ago, a designer, I think Haley will know who I mean, she was doing a lot of weddings with whites and filler kind of whites, not focals, but she needed fillers. And she said, I want 2 buckets of white or off-white filler flowers every week of the season. And I just kind of went cold. It was like, whoa, I don't even know if I can do that. I've never tried to do that. And I sort of laughed and I said, I would like to try to do that because that's kind of a neat challenge for me. I'll tell you what, let's start down this path. And I'm always going to tell you a week out if your bucket's going to be short. Well, I almost did it. There was 1 week we had to buy in something because my Nigella wasn't ready yet. But I learned a lot doing that, right? And I think she did too. So that's the nice thing about these relationships is it can be mutual learning and mutual exploring, I think.
Yeah.
Especially around quality. Sometimes, we don't know why the quality wasn't good. Like it was good when I harvested, it was good when it came out of the cooler, and Haley might say, I don't know, it just didn't last well in our cooler. Well, then we're problem solving together. We're trying to figure out what it was. What could we do differently next time? Should we just ditch it? There's lots of issues around quality, I think.
Yeah, I'm starting to kind of go down that rabbit hole myself. With quality.
Yeah.
So
and it's not that just local flowers, like all flowers have quality issues. I mean, I know you like to say they're supposed to die.
We really have to change the conversation as flower shops and as designers. I would say that, these flowers, there's no special thing anyone does to make these flowers last a super long time. Like a flower is a flower, the flower is going to die. They're meant to be beautiful while they last and slow you down and notice that. So that's my whole philosophy on flowers. But
quality is tough on lots of fronts because especially new farmers starting out, you don't have a sense of quality yet. You haven't seen great quality. You haven't seen bad quality. So you don't even know. You've got to get yourself some resources. You've got to get yourself some books. I always say, go buy flowers.
Yeah, that I was just going to say that. I was like, you need to go into the flower shops in your area and you need to see what they have. This is also going to be really key in deciding on whether you want to sell to that shop or not. Seeing a shop that already has local flowers, who already supports that community, like right away, it's probably a shop you want to try to get in with. But really checking out like what they have, what their quality is. If that means buying flowers and understanding that and seeing what their vase life is, that might be part of it. Like, you might want to see, oh, well, I can grow a flower that's going to last better than that. And that might be something that you go to that shop and use as part of your advertisement. So again, coming back to your product the best, that's where I would start. It's like you got to go in, take a look.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about some examples of flowers that are good and not so good at the end. So stick around for this. But one of the things I wanted to say about quality is it starts with your harvest practices and your growing practices. If you're continuously having poor quality issues, you got to go right back to your soil. You got to go right back to how you're growing the flowers, because those nutrients and that life in the soil is what gives the stem strength. It what makes it so that the tips don't break on flowers. It gives it its sturdiness. So it's all starting there. You want to make sure it's hydrated. You want to make sure that they're put out of a hydrator and into a holding solution. If you're using solutions, know your solutions. There's resources out there to tell you all this. And use a cooler. I would strongly suggest that you cannot effectively sell to designer and florists without a cooler. The cold chain's pretty critical here.
Yeah,
when you think,
especially to a flower shop. If they're going into a flower shop, they're not stopping at one single event for a weekend and then they're not being used. They have to, I think picking would be a different situation as well, as you're going to pick your flowers at a different time.
Yeah.
But they need to last at least a week. Like, people are expecting that. If we go back to this idea or philosophy that people want flowers to last more than they're supposed to, a week by minimum.
It's true. I mean, if you think for an event, I probably am picking on a Tuesday and delivering on the Wednesday, so that the designer has that on Wednesday, and then they're going to last till Saturday, and then nobody cares if they die. And in a way, that's easy. That's where your poppies can go and things like that, because they're going to make it easy for the dahlias, easy for the zinnias, the things with short base life. Yeah. But if I'm bringing flowers to Haley on a Wednesday, she might have a funeral or something the following Wednesday that's going into, or she wants it to go into. She's going to hold it in her cooler, sell it from her cooler as a stem. And so, yeah, it's got to last from picking like 8-10 days.
Yeah. And if they're going to a customer's house, like in a birthday bouquet or something like that, then for sure, those people want to enjoy those flowers. Flowers are a luxury gift item, and they are a gift. So you're representing somebody through flowers, and nobody wants to be embarrassed, and nobody wants their flowers to be dying earlier than they're supposed to. So you have to keep that in mind during the picking process, for sure.
Really, really important to learn about quality. And so let's talk about when the inevitable happens, because things go bad.
Yep.
Things go wrong. Yep. From my perspective, I guess the first thing is you apologize and you own it. It makes no sense to argue with someone to say, well, I don't think you handled that right. Come on. This is a business relationship you're building. My flowers didn't work. Here's your credit. I want to figure out what went wrong.
Yeah. And I think don't place blame. If you're working on a relationship and trying to build that, then you both have to kind of problem solve that and figure out what took place. There's so many things that happen in between cutting the flower and putting the flower in the vase that it's really hard to pinpoint exactly what took place. But arguing is definitely not going to help you build a relationship. So if you want to keep selling to that person, don't argue. I've argued with lots of suppliers in my day. No, it's not helpful. It's definitely not helpful. It doesn't make a shop want to work with you. It doesn't make a design studio want to work with you. But I think that both parties need to take responsibility and know that somewhere it happened. So let's try to figure out what took place.
And don't take it personally. It took me a long time to get over that. It's like I was the flower. Well, of course I'm not the flower. You know, stuff happens, something happened, whatever. It's not about fault or blame or whatever. And I'm not less of a farmer because of it. We just have to sort it. One of the things I think you don't want happening is you don't want the problems going underground and nobody talking to you about them, because then there's no opportunity to learn. We were just debriefing one of the flower hubs in a meeting, and they had done a survey to designers, and there was just one comment from one designer. So it was very big feedback. One comment from one designer that said, you know, I had the experience where quality was poor and I just didn't do anything about it. I just didn't buy the flowers again. Yeah. Okay, that is the last thing you want, is someone with a negative sense of your flowers and perhaps local flowers generally, perhaps my flowers now, by association, because they were intimidated to talk to you about it or to say something to you.
Yeah, if you're not approachable, I mean, that's definitely not a way to build a professional relationship. Depending on how busy the shop is, if you're new to selling to them, I would check in with them every week to 2 weeks, maybe once every month, and just check in on how that's going, how your product is doing. You want them to feel like you care, for sure.
Yeah.
So
this relationship is really important.
Yeah.
The relationship building. Maybe we should talk about that for a little bit. Let's start with finding. How do we find each other?
Yeah. Such a interesting question. There's, I think, a bunch of different ways that you can do that. You can start with, like, if you're going to a hub and you consistently are finding someone who's like buying off of your list there, you could go direct to them and see if there's more you can do with them. If you're just starting out, I think you definitely need to start walking into shops. I think as a designer or as a design studio as well as a flower shop, I really like when somebody comes in and they have a package put together with all the information. They've got their growing months, what they're growing, what colors all their flowers come in, a bit of like a prediction of what months they're going to have everything in, with a price sheet, a little bit about their farm so I can learn about how long they've been growing or how their packaging works, what's important to them as a farm. And then setting up a meeting to ask more questions or discuss things a little bit farther, like how does payment work? When do you drop off? Do you do delivery? Is it only pickup? Asking more of those questions. But being a busy shop that I am, like, I would think that someone would call and try to schedule that meeting with me in advance. Don't just show up expecting that you're going to be able to have the undivided attention of the person who's buying the flowers. I think you need to schedule these types of things. And come prepared. Act like it's an interview. You're both kind of interviewing each other, making sure that this is a relationship that you do want to grow. But you do have to kind of like have that first meeting, and you do have to go into their shop, show them that you care about their shop, what they've got going on, that you want to support them. And then hopefully it's vice versa, that they also want to support you in the local flower industry.
The nice thing about bringing products with you too is you might go into a flower shop and look in their cooler and say, it's all roses and carnations. I don't sell anything they have. Well, that's just because that's what they have right there and then. But you could certainly say, I'm wondering if you ever use these kinds of flowers.
Yeah.
These are some of the things I do well. And I'm wondering if you use them. And maybe they're not familiar with the flower, because we grow a lot of diversity of local flowers and not everybody knows about them.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You could say, well, let me introduce you. Let me show you what this flower is like to work with.
Yeah.
It's approaching it so openly like that is important.
Yeah. And you could start with cold calling too. Like, call flower shops that are in your area and say, hey, have you guys worked with local flowers? Are you interested in working with local flowers? Could I schedule a sit down and introduce myself? And that's when you come and you wow the shop owner, that you have all your ducks in a row. You have all of your information. If you have images of your past flower growing bundles or how you do things, images always sell in this industry. And then, bringing samples during that meeting for sure. But start with cold calling.
Well, and I just want to reinforce the lookbook idea or the file idea at the beginning of the season, because it's not something I have done. And if I were continuing flower farming, that would be my next takeaway, because I think it's so important. I've seen a few books that other farmers have done, lookbooks and PDFs, and they're just fantastic because we're selling seasonal things.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to have it with you that day when you go in.
Yeah.
You're going to have to say, let me flash back to last spring.
Yeah.
Look at the lupins, look at, etc.
Yeah.
I specialize in these kinds of things. We're all out there taking pictures of our flowers all the time. I know we are. So it's not that you don't have them. And you don't have to get too hung up on it being so totally professionally laid out at first. You'll improve as things go on. Canva's amazing to help you do these things. You
and check out Pinterest.
Pinterest, lots of tools there. So I think that's an important takeaway is showcasing your flowers isn't just live flowers. but it can also be a book of flowers.
Yeah.
And then you also have it for your own use and your own historical reference
Yeah.
of what you grew when.
Yeah.
And that can be really good too.
Yeah. And make sure that you're bringing copies to leave. Like, don't show up with a digital format and on a tablet or just an email that you sent to them, or say, oh, I'll send you an email. Like, people don't have time to be checking their emails. If they gave you the opportunity for a sit down and took time out of their busy schedule to sit with you, use it wisely.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. I think it's something that designers and florists are really looking for, especially if they're newer to buying local, because that's what will guide them through that process. The most common question I get is like, what's blooming when?
Yeah.
Because people really don't know. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't know. You'll learn what's blooming when pretty easily. I guess the other thing is just about the relationship debriefing. Haley mentioned before, sitting down regularly to debrief, especially season end, don't you think?
Yeah, I think at the beginning of a season, the end of a season, you definitely want to sit down. I'm not a huge fan of these, like, send out a questionnaire and let me fill in the blanks. Like, I want to know that you care what my thoughts are and that you want to hear them. Again, I think that comes to building a relationship. But again, that's me personally. Not every shop is going to be like that. So you could also feel things out. And maybe when you start the relationship, you say, well, what's your preferred method of contact? Do you want me to call you?
Yeah.
Do you want a text?
Yeah.
Do you want an email? And then based off of that, use that information to also do your follow-ups. If a shop is super busy, I would check in like once a month. I know Theresa and I have worked together for quite some time. So we kind of got to the point where we were like, give me these buckets, what you got, doesn't matter. I'll use what you have. I don't think every shop is going to be like that, especially as
Well,
you're
not
starting.
to start, especially.
Yeah.
They don't know you. Why would they do that?
Exactly. So you want to be following up more, but be mindful that you're not irritating your customer. So gauge that based off of how busy the shop is. If it's a really busy shop, give them time to get back to you, experience your product, and then ask for feedback.
I had someone say to me the other day, you mean I have to contact each florist I sell to individually? And absolutely you have to. I mean, you have to know your customer.
Yeah.
You have to have a relationship with your customer. This is not, even with a hub situation, it's not so simple as you put them in a list and walk away. There's all kinds of conversation and follow-up around colors and stage of harvest. And, I saw this that you had last week. Are you going to have that in 2 weeks still? There's so much to go on in that relationship. And you will have some flower shops that want delivery, some that want pickup, some that want delivery on different days. You're going to be trying to negotiate to say, could we do them all on one day? Or it's just all knowing your customer. Trends is another thing to think about. I mean, we're in a trendy industry. Things change.
Yeah.
Color palettes change. Things that are in vogue change. And talking with your designer will help you know what's coming, that you should be stocking up on, that you should be learning more about growing.
And we've kind of done that at the end of every season. Just to kind of see, like, especially as a design studio, like, what do you have booked for next year? What are you looking for? What types of stuff would you want to sell, or are your clients looking for? That also shows them that you're super invested in them and their clientele. So I think that's amazing to have those debriefing conversations, not just about your product, but what's to come for the future.
And it's not a one-way street, because I think the last time Haley and I met was just before I was ordering plugs. And so I had all my catalogs out with pictures, right?
Yeah.
So this was wonderful to flip through, and she'd say, oh, that. And I'd say, I don't think I can do that, or that's going to be really expensive for me. Or she would say something else, and I would say, really? Like, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I could do that. So, or sometimes we would both look at something and say, well, I don't know. Do you think we want to try it? What if we try it?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think that for me was always the most rewarding thing, is this co-experimenting feeling, that we're doing things together. When my business is doing good, your business is doing good. When your business is doing good, my business is doing good.
Yeah. It's a circle effect. Yeah.
That's the kind of effect we want.
Yeah.
Hang on, because we're going to come back and look at some flowers. What else? We're back, and we're going to talk. We have a bucket of flowers here that we're going to guide through. So some of these work well, I think, in terms of selling local, and some don't work at all. So you grab one out and let's talk about it.
All right, let's start with this one.
Bells of Ireland. I love Bells of Ireland. The first thing I noticed when I came to Haley's shop was the Bells of Ireland. I noticed two things. One, it's not just that it's tall. Mine are pretty tall, but this distance between the leaves is much greater than mine. And I think it's because these are greenhouse grown. Because I noticed this with other flowers too, this distance. I noticed it with Lysianthus and other things. I would say local field grown bells look different because of that.
I think like similar to some plants when they're grown in a greenhouse, like if you look at like a succulent or a jade or something like that, they grow longer if they don't have enough sunlight. So maybe the greenhouse doesn't have enough sunlight,
It's
like direct
filtered,
sunlight. Yeah. So they grow longer and then they grow a bloom or a leaf.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what jades will do as well. But if they have all the sunlight, then they'll just like multiply. Yeah. And so the blooms are closer.
Yeah. The other reason that I haven't sold this extensively is that many florists and designers want it like this, where the leaves are all picked off, because when it's outgrowing, these leaves are all down, right?
Yeah.
It takes forever.
I wonder how they do that.
I don't know how they do it. Little hands or I don't know. There could be a defoliator that they spray them with, because they do that for a lot of bare branches. They spray defoliators. Okay. So, but I know other florists who have said, show me the leaves. I like the leaves.
Yeah.
So it's worth trying, right?
Yeah.
It's not one that I do, but it's a nice line.
Yeah.
And you use them a lot, don't you?
We use them as a flower shop. We use these all the time. In design work, I wouldn't say we use them all the time. I think wedding work doesn't like a lot of wedding work likes like big focal flowers. I guess it depends on what style of a designer you're working with. So some might use those for sure, but in as a flower shop, we use them all the time.
Okay, so you can explore that one. Grab another. What else have we got here? Oh. Now, do you call these chrysanthemum? What do you call this?
We call this an aster.
An aster. Okay.
Yeah.
So in that family, this would be, I know this is a Danziger bred aster. So I happen to know they're quite expensive to buy as plugs. You can't do them from seed. I have not bought them as plugs yet, but it might be worth an experiment for us to do in the collective plug order sometime. But have you ever had in local native asters in the fall at all for local?
Like as a big one or a small one?
No, like this, little like this sprays.
I've had like some of the, oh gosh, the chamomile.
Yes. Mm-hmm. The feverfew.
Yeah, the feverfew. Yeah. So again, so similar, very similar look. That stuff, the vase life tends to be a little bit less than I would have liked, and the stem quality seemed to be a lot thinner than something like this. But maybe not exactly what you're talking about now.
Yeah. No, there's a fall aster that grows natively here that is very, very similar to this.
Yeah, so that would be probably
but this is
try.
Yeah, this is a hybridized one, and again, as I say, not that easy because it's costly to buy.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got another container. Okay.
Just because it's a little easier. This, I guess, is another thing.
Oh, Artemisia.
Is that what this is?
Artemisia definitely can do this local.
Yeah, so we call it solidago, and a lot of the time.
Oh, you call this a solidago?
Yeah.
Do you?
It's spray painted white.
No, this is gray like this.
No.
You've painted this. Oh, for heaven's sakes! Because it looks exactly like. So here's the yellow.
Yeah, there's the yellow.
It is the same.
Yeah, it's the same.
Isn't that funny? I looked at it right away and I thought it was Artemisia, because there's an Artemisia that grows just like this, without the spray paint.
Oh.
Yeah. But let's talk about these solidagos.
Solidago is really easy to spray paint, and it's a really beautiful texture. So you can kind of get that in any color at any stage. I'd say we sometimes like they're closed right now and the little buds. I prefer that because they give a nicer texture when they start opening and they get yellow. It's a fuzzier texture, so it's just different.
Yeah.
I think I feel like I've got some of these from you once or twice.
Yes. Yeah. I do sometimes harvest native solidago, again, when it's very closed like this.
Mhm.
Once it's open, it's kind of garish. The yellow is a little fuzzy
Yeah,
and open.
yeah.
But there are also hybrid solidagos, the Moonlight Glory series, for example, which I think you had from me, which is much more of a cream off-white. It doesn't go to the yellow as
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
It's a very nice solidago.
Yeah.
And solidago is something you can do. Like it's a perennial, so it'll come back for you.
And it's a really easy filler flower. And like you can see here, even for design work, like you could tint that any color. You could either like dip dye or spray. And that can go in any wedding for a nice filler flower. Even some of the color palettes that are more difficult to try to achieve, like any color.
And you don't have to feel bad if somebody else is painting your flowers. I know you probably don't want to, because
you just spent all that time growing them.
Well, and if you're growing sustainably, then you probably don't want the chemicals on them. But you know what? So somebody else is doing it.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, let's do this one. This one's one of my favorites for local.
Hypericum. So, first time I saw Hypericum in a flower shop like this, it was like, oh my gosh, look at the size of those berries, because they're huge berries. I can't get berries that big. My berries are this size.
Yeah, they're small.
But that's just a different look.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's still a very nice flower to have.
Yeah.
And again, it's perennial. Maybe mine didn't get quite that tall. And maybe mine were a little more branched, although maybe this has just had the side branches cut off. But
usually for a flower shop, they're going to come in and they've got like the three kind of tiers here.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that I think is really cool with your Hypericum is that there was one time that you had cut some and there was a few of the berries that were blooming, or that had whatever, I don't know what stage of the process it was in. And I liked that more than looking at this.
The flowers,
than the
little
berry,
yellow flowers. Again, it's a different.
And we talked about you maybe trying to pick them at that stage a little bit more. And
it's kind of fun when that happens, when you realize you've actually got two different flowers growing there.
Yeah.
I've got the option to pick them now in flower, or I've got the option to wait.
Yeah.
And it's nice when that happens.
Yeah. And the flower, as a designer at a flower shop or a design studio, I personally just loved the flower. It was so pretty and so dainty, and that would be a really, really nice like filler. A flower shop uses these berries maybe more than like a design studio might. But again, like they come in so many different colors, white and blush, which can go great in wedding work as well.
And they're, I think, generally rated as a zone 6, so borderline hardy. I'm in a zone 5B, and mine have lived multiple years now. So it's worth a try to again, another perennial.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Guess what? Carnations. People are always asking if we can get the fancy carnations in the plug sale, and we can, but it is so cost prohibitive for you to grow these in a small quantity. How many do you go through these?
On standing order, I feel like we've got like 600 that come in a week.
So you're not going to do that.
And we order more on top of that.
Yeah. If a flower is in that quantity and is that expensive for you to buy the plug of, and we're not talking about the little carnations that like the Grenadine series or something. We're talking about these. But the spray's in a way the same. This is where you can't compete.
Yeah.
Why would you even try?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many other flowers out there, hundreds of flowers.
Yeah.
So don't worry about this and like the long stem roses.
Yeah. Don't do a rose. Yeah.
Don't even worry about it. Go for something else.
Something interesting as a flower shop. So a large carnation like this and a mini carnation, they're essentially the same price. So we don't buy a lot of the mini carnations unless somebody's specifically asking for them, because a customer, this looks like you're getting more for your dollar than you are a mini carnation that's only going to be like this size. So if you're like, oh, okay, well, fine, I can't do the large carns, I wouldn't do the minis either.
What else we got here, Haley?
Let's do Dusty Miller.
Oh, Dusty. Yes.
She's looking a little sad.
Yes, been in the cooler a little. So Dusty Miller you can definitely do.
Yeah.
And it's one that was in Haley's cooler here today. I don't know that I've sold a lot of it. Do you use a lot of it, or it's?
We don't. It's popular right now because winter is coming and people want this like gray look in their
It's
stuff.
like silver, yeah.
Yeah. On a regular basis, we're not really bringing it in through the summer seasons because a lot of people kind of like this goes really beautiful with like red and winter greens and stuff like that, right? But it was super popular for a very long time in the wedding scene. So again, I would try it. I would try it if it's easy enough for you to grow and somebody's wanting it, or if somebody wants miscellaneous filler. It can go in bouquets for wedding season. It can go in any arrangement, any time of the year. Mother's Day, this kind of goes really nice with the pale pink. So yeah, I would say grow it.
It's hard to get it this tall. They have cut off, right, all those sub branches, so you sacrifice a lot of branches to get a tall one. It does go this tall for me outside occasionally, not to the end of the year, and only if I manage to winter it over. And again, borderline hardy. But one year I grew it in my greenhouse, and it definitely got this tall and was incredibly prolific in there. So it's possible.
Yeah.
It's one if you've got designers who want it. Limonium. So again, this is a Danziger bred limonium, and we can also get these in the plug sale, which we haven't done yet. And I think we might next year give them a try. You can get other non-hybridized limonium as well. And it's nice like this too. Sometimes it's a little more lavender-like.
Yeah, so we can get them in lavender or white. There's so many different varieties of limonium. I feel like there's some that have like more of a larger bloom that comes in like pink and white and all kinds of different colors. I think for this one in particular, like as a local grower, you just want to check your costs because I can get this relatively cheap. It's a filler flower that we kind of throw in and put in things all over the place. As a designer, you can get so many different breaks off of this to go in different pieces. If you're doing a small arrangement, all you need is something this size. If you're going in a medium-sized arrangement, you can cut this into 2 different breaks. If you're going into a tall, then you have the single stem.
Yeah.
But I would check like price to see whether it's worth it in your area and or with the shops that you're going to be selling to.
Sometimes limonium, I know the one I have, which sometimes we call this German status too. It can be hard to find plants, but I would say that once it's established, you get massive clumps. Like they're huge. They're way taller than this. It's hard to harvest them without them breaking apart though, because they're so big. But I used to sell a lot of it to designers for installations. Just they have that cloud-like look, like a stand-in for baby's breath, which you have a love-hate relationship with. Haley doesn't like it, and I love it.
Wouldn't be my first pick. Okay, let's do this one.
Oh, another limonium, but we call it status.
Yeah.
So this is the annual status. Easy peasy for you to grow. How much do you go through?
We go through, I'd say, quite a bit of it. As a local farm, I would recommend focusing on unique colors here.
Like the apricots kind of thing.
Yeah, something that's going to be different. This dark purple we get, it's in a lot of our arrangements here. We also get a lavender, a white, and a pink. There's also yellow, and then there's those apricot colors. So I would focus on something that's going to be a unique color. Sometimes that's the best way to stand out against like imports or larger wholesalers is to grow something that's maybe a little bit harder or something that has a more unique color palette to it or different shade variations.
And locally, it might be a little shorter than this. I would say my stems are probably about 4 inches shorter than this. But that's still lots of height. That's still a good stem.
Yep.
And it's an easy one to grow, long blooming season. So if you've got a designer who wants it, it's one.
Does it grow, Theresa, with more than just like, because sometimes you get status and there's so many big different shoots off of it, right? So like that's something also to keep in mind, that if you can compare to growing something that's got more blooms per stem, and so when you go into your flower shop and you see that this is all that they have and yours is bigger, that's something to also look at and see if you can compete with that.
Because that's really important. Remember, for the designer, when they buy a stem, they're not necessarily going to use that whole stem as is.
Mhm.
They're going to cut it up and use it in multiple ways.
Yeah. This is a poor representation of a snapdragon right now, I'd say. Our snaps are usually a lot more full. Our snaps have been coming in a little bit not so nice lately, but I think
twisted.
it's just, I think it's just the season. We're heading into winter and bringing everything in.
These would be greenhouse grown in probably Ontario.
Yeah. I can grab another one as an example, just something a little bit.
This is the classic snap that they would get in wholesale chains. So it's not the double and it's not the open. So it's not like a butterfly or a chantilly. And in my experience, it's really hard to compete on price with these because they get so many of these.
Yeah.
And unless you grow a different, really unique color.
Yep.
Or grow the open snaps or the double snaps.
Yeah. Yeah, so like this is maybe a nicer version of kind of what we typically get.
And often stem more closed than this, no?
Yeah. Yep, a little bit more closed. But the stem is like, it's super hardy. It's
Huge
nice
stem.
and thick.
This is pencil thickness.
Yeah. It's about a pencil, I'd say. And it's super nice to put into vases. So they would be hard to compete with it, like Theresa said, unless you're using a really unique color.
One of the things, getting back to price for a minute, there are some flowers, and snapdragon is like this, where depending on when you harvest it, you would charge completely different pricing because it's a completely different flower. So these are all what we would call first cut snaps. In commercial production, they don't cut them again. They just pull out the plants, right? They're only cut once. Same as with foxgloves, for example, same thing. Often in local farms, we want to get that second harvest, and you do, but they're much thinner stems. So you can't sell those for the same price. You can't now say it's the same price as my first cut. You've got to describe it as a second cut. People might still use it, especially if the colors are wonderful. And if the price is right. But you should expect a significantly lower price on a second cut.
Yeah, and I think this is where the communication comes in and setting the right expectations for your clients who are the flower shops.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, larkspur. And this is a unique color. This is I don't know if this is...
it's a pink of some kind.
Pink stripe. Maybe it's called pink stripe. I'm not sure. Might be Cain's pink stripe. I'm not sure. Now, this I noticed the same that I noticed with the Bells of Ireland. This distance, I think this is a greenhouse grown larkspur. For sure, a field grown larkspur would be a lot more compact. I think the flowers would probably be a little larger.
Yeah.
And it would be branched.
And this comes in, we bring it in white, pink, and purple. Our purple ones are usually much more clustered at the top. And then like more spread out at the bottom. So again, it's a really interesting grow that way.
Yeah.
But I think you could definitely grow this as a local grower. And again, focusing on those really unique colors. There's this like dusty purpley kind of color, mauvey color. And then there's like a gray color that's really beautiful out there. I think for design work, people are looking for unique colors like that. And then shops who really support local and want something that's going to be unique and different as well, they're gonna jump on that too.
Yeah, and it's also I think it's one where you can compete on quality. I think you can harvest quality even better than they can in greenhouse for these things because they like cool growing, so they like it outside. You can get them early. It's a great flower too because you could plant them the fall before and you get them in July, which is kind of your dead zone when you're a farmer. It's hard to have other things. So I think larkspur is a good one for sure.
What about, like, in the same conversation, what about delphinium?
Yeah. Delphinium, I think most farmers try to sell as a more premium flower than a larkspur, unless they're selling a whole branched larkspur, right? So maybe it depends. But delphiniums, larger flowers, so many different kinds.
Yeah. So we get two colors right now. We don't do the purples or the whites, but we'll do a dark blue and we'll do a light blue. And there's a huge difference between the two flowers. The dark blue, I think they're called like a phoenix or something. Anyways, they have like the space again.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then the light blue, they're much closer together and they look like a much fuller stem.
Yes.
And there's some larkspur that I've seen, local grown larkspur, that has those closer knit blooms and it looks more like a fuller stem. So just in that
Yeah.
like, comparison of what is coming in from wholesaler versus
Yes.
local.
Yeah, I think there's lots of different kinds of delphiniums, and you can experiment and see. You know, you can like a magic fountain series, all the colors, but they grow a little shorter, so they don't need staking. So if you've got a windy site, that's really good. But if you're growing some of the really tall, like extraordinary ones with huge, huge blooms, then that's a different thing. It's a premium. You might not sell as many, but if you got a reputation for that, that could be something.
If your product is speaking for itself in quality like that, then I would say like you're gonna get someone who's gonna bite, and when they see that quality, they're gonna keep coming back.
Yep.
I would much rather a larkspur as well as a delphinium that is a fuller stem. The super short stems, they don't really work for us. But something that's a fuller stem, I would for sure order that over ordering something like this.
Perfect. Just before we leave, because I thought of it when we were talking about the snaps, campanula. I didn't see any here today, but you probably get it.
We can get it as an import right now. It's coming from Holland. The import campanula, they're not a real nice bell shape. So the locals, like I've never seen campanula as nice as they do locals. Like I would definitely grow that if you could. But yeah, because they're a lot more like they look very dehydrated when they come in, and they don't fluff. Like you don't get a real bell shape out of it.
No, I think that's really important to know, because again, campanula, like larkspur, these are fall sown, and so they're harvesting in that late June, July period when you don't have much else, and people are hungry for local flowers in that period. You know, the peonies have just gotten them hooked, and they're ready for what's next, and so you want things coming right along. And I think it's a place where we have advantages of local growers.
I think too, like customers that I'm noticing when they're buying local flowers, it's not necessarily saying that like I want all local flowers in an arrangement per se. But if you have a stem or a flower that like speaks to itself, people love to just put a bunch of the same blooms in a vase on their kitchen table, or so like a whole vase of campanula, because that one flower is just so beautiful, and it's so like it speaks for itself.
I love campanula. I think it's a beautiful flower to have.
Yeah.
Oh, Lisianthus. Now, I can tell you, you can kill on Lisianthus compared to this. I think a lot of designers would say that outdoor locally grown Lisianthus in at least Southwest Ontario, where I am, is second to none.
Yeah.
And I know people say, oh, you have to have a hoop house. And I completely disagree with this. If you're growing it in a hoop house again, or in a greenhouse, you're getting this long distance. See this long distance here. But what you're sacrificing is the thickness of the stem. And the outdoor ones have much heftier stems. My stems would be much more like your snapdragons on mine.
Yeah, they're like pencil.
Yeah. And the colors.
Yeah, just the unique colors.
And the frilliness to get the frillies. And there's so many choices that you have available. It's really hard to choose which ones we grow, I know. But I would say that Lisianthus is definitely one that you can move to local markets. And with some careful planning, and especially if you have a hoop house, you can probably be selling Lisianthus from the end of July to the middle of September. Yeah. So that's a pretty good period of time.
My girls are always excited when Theresa's Lisianthus starts coming in, because there's a huge comparison on the Lizzie. Okay.
Oh, gladiolas. My husband and I call these gladtonias.
I like that.
I know. I don't grow glads, partly because for me, I have a fairly windy site, and I would need like almost 3 layers of netting to get nice straight ones.
Yeah.
But if you don't have
half the height of me.
Yeah, if you don't have that, glads are a good one to do. If you can save the corms, if you're just going to use the corm 1 year, I don't think it's very cost effective for you to do, because you probably use a lot of glads.
We do, because we do a lot of funeral work. I don't know if every flower shop would use a lot of glads, but again, that's something to check in with the shops that you want to sell to.
Yeah. And what about color?
Oh, for sure, go on unique color. Pink right now is hard for us to get, like a really nice soft pink. We get a lot of like peachy color pinks
Like
that
this
are
one.
not nice. Yeah. But I would go with really unique different things. We had a few things come from you, and there was like some really crazy
Those-
dusty.
Yeah, those dusty ones.
Yeah.
And the deep red brown kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would go with unique color on these if you can, because you're not going to get a wholesaler who's selling that kind of things. If a shop wants glads, go unique color. They can get the regular colors, the white, the red, the purple, the orange. They can get that yellow from their suppliers.
And one thing I notice here is stem is long, flower is relatively like medium size compared to glads, and they can come much smaller, they can come much bigger, and that speaks to your corm size. So you don't have to invest in the largest corms, which always cost a lot more. You can get away with the medium sized corms and get a flower like this. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The first time I started selling glads, I don't know if you remember, I used to cut this off.
Yeah.
I used to cut the tip and just below or just above where I first saw color, but you don't necessarily get them in like that.
So they come in, usually there's another longer part at the top that looks like a rattlesnake tail or like a wheat or something. I don't know, whatever. I don't like the look of anything. We take those off. So this one probably had a break already take place. Maybe not this one because it maybe didn't come in looking like that. But usually we'll take like maybe this much off.
When you use them.
Yeah. And then like the backs go brown so fast. So we'll take those off.
Yeah.
But this is a perfect size bloom for us.
There you go.
Least.
Cool. So you don't have to buy the biggest.
And again, it's just like one person's preference. Other shops will have their own.
That's all right. That's what you got to talk about. You got to ask them. Oh, stock. Oh,
I don't know what this smells.
It does, and it's one of the few that smell in a flower shop, isn't it? Yeah.
I would say if you can do stock good, do it, because I know I've seen much nicer stuff than this.
Yes.
Yeah, and the blooms, like you can get stock where blooms are like this long on a stem.
Now, do you like this is a double stock? Sometimes they come single. You know, they bloom both ways. I don't know if maybe you don't even see the singles because people don't send them to you. There's sort of a debate among farmers whether you harvest the singles or not. They don't look extraordinary like this. They still smell as nice. And I know a lot of farmers who do bouquet work will keep the singles for their own bouquets for the smell.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've ever really noticed the difference, but that's something that I would bring to your shop's attention and say, like, would you be interested in buying something like this? And like, this is how I've used it in the past. I think that's just like how we continue to educate each other on different things, because your flower shop is going to have no clue, or maybe it will, but maybe it won't have any clue on your side of the growing side of things. I've been working with Theresa for a long time, so I have some idea on some things. But I think educate them, let them know that you can also do this, and this is also what that would look like, and include that in your lookbook. Yeah.
No, stock's a nice one.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the different colors that you can do in that too. There's
and you can get a spring and a fall once it's cool. You can do them in the fall as well, so that's good. One thing we don't have here, just while I'm thinking of spring, ranunculus, of course.
Yeah, ranunculus. I think price point is going to be like the big thing you need to focus on here. I don't know what's like the growing. I think there's two parts to it.
Yeah, well, it depends on the variety. If you're doing a named variety like a cloney ranunculus, you can only grow those one season. It's a license really to grow, and so they cost wholesale $3.50 in each for a corm. Now you get more than one flower per corm, but you might only get 2 or 3 really large flowers per corm.
Yeah.
So the numbers are a little tough on that.
Yeah.
Unless you've got a market for them, and maybe you kill at them, and then it's good.
Yeah. So, what's the season for?
Usually early, like if they're grown best in a greenhouse early, and so some of the nicest I've seen are for Mother's Day, actually.
Yeah, and I've seen your Mother's Day ones.
Yeah, and towards the end of May. Once you get into July, they end. It's like they know the calendar. Like July 1st comes and the ranunculus stops.
So I think like for me it's size. Like I want a ranunculus that's going to be at least like this big, so bigger than a toonie. if your ranunculus are not bigger than that, I have a hard time justifying the price. It's really difficult for me to sell a higher priced flower because the perceived value is not there from a customer's perspective unless they know a ranunculus and they know it's a premium flower and they specifically are asking for ranunculus. We try to have them in during the spring all the time. There are some out there that are like the size of a nickel. You know what I mean? If you have a big prom market, you might be able to use them for that, and have your customers buy them for that. But I think that communication needs to be really clear on the size of these prior to buying.
And this is where for your business model, you need to think, if I can't grow big ranunculus, I have a choice to make. I'm either going to just not grow it because I want to sell to designers and florists, or I'm going to add a second channel and I'm going to do bouquet work in the spring, Mother's Day bouquets or whatever. And then your smaller ranunculus are going to be great. I know I would sell a lot of by the bucket flowers where there's a set number of fillers, maybe there's 30 fillers in there and maybe 10 large flowers. And so I would be pairing peonies, 10 peonies, and my fillers would be my ranunculus because I had them. So it's not like it has to be a focal for you to make money on it.
No, it doesn't, but you just have to be clear on what you're getting for what cost.
Because if your florist is expecting a focal, if you just say ranunculus and you don't say anything else, she's expecting a focal.
Yeah.
And so absolutely. You can't just deliver these little smaller than carnation things.
Yeah. But they are very cute and they can go.
And they last. Even as a filler. That's why they're so great. They last.
So, and I think something interesting versus like the wholesale or the larger wholesale market and the growers is, in fact, that they last so much longer. When you can get a really nice stem length, we saw this past season at Growers Lane.
Yes.
That there was incredible stem length that can be achieved in this area. And that's huge because our suppliers, they're still coming in short. So if you know you can get that, advertise that to your flower shop and say, I can do better on height for that.
So ranunculus is one you can compete on. You just need to practice a bit. And this one you can't. So hydrangea, and this is the macrophylla kind of hydrangea. So it's borderline hardy for us because what happens is it opens early in the spring and we almost always get a late frost that kills the buds. So if you have a hydrangea, macrophylla hydrangea and it hasn't bloomed for you, that's why. So we don't really grow these very little. We grow the other kind, the penticulata, the ones that people use for drying and stuff with the smaller petals.
I was going to say that I think the ones that you can kind of get at the end of the season that are really nice for drying, there's a lot of flower shops that might buy something like that. Or if you can get some unique colors and two-tone variations.
Like often a bigger head and smaller flowers and those two-tone colors, right? Like the reds.
Or unique shapes too, right? Like a cone hydrangea rather than So something that's different like that you're like, they're not coming in from a wholesaler looking like that. They're coming in looking like this, and this is what's expected when you order a hydrangea. But if you have the cone flowers or the cone hydrangeas or a unique color or the end of season fall stuff that will work into drying, even a flower shop can market that way as well, right? They can say, well, we've got these local hydrangeas in, we're sticking them in, keep them, because when the rest of your flowers are done from your arrangement, these are going to dry beautifully. So just educating people on all sides, I think, is a big one.
Right.
Yeah.
So lots of flowers that aren't here today that we might mention a couple of. Peonies. You'll always sell. Do some peonies. That said, I do worry a little bit that we're going to experience a glut of peonies as local flower farms because people are planting a lot of peonies. And, 3 years from now, peony prices might fall because there's going to be so many local peonies, but people love them.
They love them.
And consumers wait for them. And, better if you had a way to make Mother's Day. And here where we are in Southwest Ontario, if you have mature peony plants and you cover them with a hoop house, you've got a pretty good chance of making Mother's Day. And that will draw a higher price, absolutely, if you can get the Mother's Day ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just after the party, always. A little late for the party.
Yeah.
Tulips.
Ooh. I would vote no on tulips unless you're doing doubles, parrots, unique ones, unique colors. You've had some really amazing colors available that you're not going to get. But I wouldn't do any of your singles, and I wouldn't do any of your standard colors. Red, yellow, orange, white, pinks, purples. We got them all.
Yeah.
For cheap.
And they're so cheap. That's the thing. Like there was a year, it was maybe about 3 years ago, and I had buckets to go out in pastel shades, and I had counted on my own tulips to be in there.
Yeah.
Single tulips. And my tulips weren't ready.
Oh.
And I went over to the market, and I bought for my buckets, just at the market, lavender tulips that were cheaper buying the whole tulip than my bulbs were that I had planted. So, like, you can't compete in that.
There's a huge market coming in from PEI with tulips every year, and like they don't stop. So I would say, again, I would vote not. If anything, focus on your specialty tulips, and don't do a lot of them if you can.
And similarly, I know it's a lot of us are interested now in forcing tulips and sort of winter tulips and having them for Valentine's Day, etc. Again, you want to talk to people about price point on that, because if you're investing that much time in growing a forced tulip, it's kind of a specialty market thing. And
I can get tulips now, and I'm not bringing them in, and I have quite the large selection here and clientele. So they're on the trucks. I can buy them every week if I want to right now, and that's probably started since maybe around the beginning to middle of November. I'm just not buying them because I don't think the market is big enough for tulips in the winter. I think it used to be a bit bigger than it is now, but I think some people want to focus on sustainability. Maybe that's something we talk about as well. And so they're like, well, we can't get tulips now. It's the same with peonies. I can get peonies right now too. They're coming in from Holland, but they're crazy expensive. Yeah, they're crazy. Yeah. Even if you thought peonies were expensive in peony season, let me tell you, peonies now are something else.
And maybe we left peonies too quick there. Your average price main season peony stem, like what would you be looking at? $2? $3? Not $3. Would you be looking at $3?
I don't think $3. No.
Unless it's something a specialty kind. We're not talking about like the pastel elegance or something like that. We're talking about your Sarah Bernhardt's.
I think you also need to educate your growers that like some of these things are not all the same, and maybe they should be priced differently. Or your flower shops. Yeah. Because we don't know what you guys pay for these things. But make sure that like the conversation is open on that and not feeling like you're telling them what they should be pricing their flowers at. And why, like, don't take over that conversation, but just like have a gentle conversation on what that looks like.
I know to designers, I used to sell a lot of the Ito peonies. So not just the Barzella, the yellow one, but clouds of color and multicolor. There's a beautiful single Ito called Scarlet Heaven that is this gorgeous deep color, like nothing like it. And I would sell a lot of those, and those would sell for $3 a bloom, but that's quite a different flower. So a peony isn't a peony necessarily here, right? We also haven't talked about some of the perennials, which are just so dear to my heart because it's always my niche, but things like lupins. I know you like the lupins.
We love the lupins. The girls here love the lupins.
So think about those things. It might not be something that you can see very often on a wholesale site. Like, if you look at some wholesaler lists, it's not likely that you're going to see a lot of lupins there. Certainly they're going to have a limited time, and yours will too. But it's a lovely flower to grow.
I think a lupin is a really good comparison to like a snapdragon. If you couldn't do good on a snapdragon, but you can do good on a lupin, like for sure. Absolutely. Because they're so big and they're so full when they come local. And they've got like a little bit of more two-tone to them.
Yeah.
Like orange is really the only two-tone that you kind of get.
Yeah.
When you're getting like local or import stuff in.
Yeah.
But the lupins, you can get some really
beautiful colors
stuff
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with Baptisia. We didn't cover
Baptisia, same thing. Yes.
I would definitely do that because that's a really unique flower. We're not really seeing that in the wholesale selection as much. There are some. And also like sell the greenery. The greenery is beautiful.
The thing about the Baptisia, you get these three things. You get the flower stem. If you leave some flower stems, you get those seed pods, gorgeous dark seed pods. And then you've got the greenery.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a nitrogen fixing. It's great for your soil. It's pulling nitrogen from the air. So it's, people could grow Baptisia as a cover crop to just grow like that. So Baptisia is another great one.
Mm-hmm. Just looking at our list here, we've got Cosmos.
Oh yes, of course. I like growing Cosmos.
Yeah.
Some farmers don't. The way I grow Cosmos, though, is because the seed is cheap. I know sometimes people think seed is expensive. Seed is cheap. And a lot of Cosmos varieties, you can save the seed really easily. So it's really cheap. And just keep sowing it over and over. Because the worst thing about Cosmos is picking it over. Because you've got to be able to harvest it when the buds are just breaking, or it's not going to have base life in a flower shop.
Yeah.
If you're harvesting it full, it can't really be for a flower shop. It's more for a design then.
Yeah. And I think the difference between flower shop to design studio is like you really have to know your product. You have to know what's going to last. And like if you're just new to this, like do a season, cut it, watch how long it lasts, watch what it does, take your notes, and then move on to your second season before you kind of start trying to grow.
Yeah.
Because you've got to have all those answers. And there's maybe some unspoken expectations on some of these things. And so if you're wondering that from your designer, ask them, is this going into a wedding? Is this going into a flower shop? So that you can set the right expectations with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you grow Cosmos with multiple sowings, it's actually easier to cut if you have the room, because you just kind of clear cut it when it's in its prime.
Yeah.
And then don't worry about it. What about zinnias?
Zinnias, I'd say, are good as well. We like them. There's a lot of crazy colors going on right now, though.
So much. There's a whole bunch of people breeding zinnias all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And so you can get all these different mixes and things. You can get everything from the buff, kind of buffy, that dusty pink color.
Yep.
And you can still into the darks that were always classic.
I notice in my shop, and I don't know if this is, again, like a lack of education to the general public, but the zinnias that come in where the petals curl a little bit inwards, and some gerbs will do this as well, like Gerber daisies, people think that that's old and it's dying and it's curling like it's wilting. So you have to be careful if you're selling to a flower shop. It might not be about the uniqueness of a zinnia, where it is like a uniqueness of a color for something else. You have to also think about what that
shape,
their perspective is going to be. So if you've got a dark center and then you've got those lime green that are coming out and they're curling, they're going to be like, well, the center is dead. It's brown.
Yes.
And the like it's a greeny, whatever. It's a different color than a solid. Yeah. And people start to think that that's going to be a dead flower or a wilting flower in a flower shop. Yeah. In a design space, the conversation is likely different because they're going specifically off of aesthetic. Whereas in a flower shop, people want it for vase life. So if the perception is there that it looks like it's dying, or same with brown flowers in a flower shop, it's not huge, but in wedding work or event work, it's absolutely huge. But
dahlias can be like that. When I first started growing dahlias, I grew a lot of the varieties that are almost like the big balls where the petals go right around the back.
Yeah.
And I had from some flower shops the feedback that, oh, those petals are dying because they go right around.
Yeah.
I think they're supposed to be like that, but I wasn't even sure. But yeah, the way a flower looks, even if it's in its prime, if it's not what the customer is expecting, you might switch it up and grow different varieties.
And just one more thing on the zinnias, there's this trend with the
orange,
ugly
green lime.
Yeah, but with the ugly vegetables, right?
Oh.
There's the ugly vegetable trend, and zinnias tend to have bites out of them more than other flowers. So if you're working with a shop that their standard doesn't allow for anything like that, then you want to make sure that you're paying attention to what product you're selling to them.
Yeah, absolutely. People are often surprised to learn that I because I'm a sustainable flower grower, I don't spray anything. With a lot of flowers like zinnias, dahlias for sure, even cone flowers, I'm kind of like a 1 in 3. In other words, 2 make it to the compost pile for every one that I sell, just because of insect bites. So you really are harvesting for perfection out there, and you're sacrificing a lot. So just be prepared for that.
And keep that communication open with your flower shop or designer as well, because some people are okay with that and some people are not. Like, depends on how much waste they're willing to accept as well, and what they can eat on that.
With a dahlia, you can sometimes remove a petal if it's really full. Harder with a zinnia sometimes, and really hard with a coneflower. You can't really. I thought you were going to talk a little bit more about the question with zinnias. We had this conversation. Do you harvest them after the cone is showing or before? Because really, it's a different flower. It's a completely different look. And I know when I used to sell them online, I would always describe them. Cone showing, no cone. Because it says something to the designer who knows what look they're after. If they want those cones showing or not.
And I think too, with the flower shop, everyone's different, right? But you have to know your shop and what your clients are going to buy. So if I'm specifically looking for something with cone showing, then I'm asking for that for a reason, and you can't just substitute that with something that is different. If it's not going to sell, it's not going to sell, and then I wouldn't be very impressed with that. But a couple other things, eucalyptus.
Oh yes, I would say if you're doing your own work or you're selling bunches at in the fall or at market or whatever, it's perfect for you. But if you're focused on designers and florists, they get volume so cheap of all the different kinds of eucalyptus. And even if you're wintering yours over, if you're able to, you're still not going to be harvesting the kind of volume that they're going to be using.
You have to have a whole farm.
I think you got bigger fish to fry than eucalyptus. Grow a few for yourself.
Next would be poppies, but I do want to come back to the greenery topic. So let's touch on poppies first.
Poppies. I love poppies, and I know Haley loves poppies, but they're short base life. Even if you pick them at the crack stage, you can, if you're really careful, you can get good days out of them. But it's the one kind of flower where I like to say to the designer, hey, this is coming. You know, can you use them? Like, know before you deliver. It's probably not one you're going to try to hold a lot.
I know of one grower who does poppies great. They last long. They're beautiful. I don't know what she does. I'm not willing to share her name or her secrets. But so if you are interested in it, try it. Try to learn it. Keep trying every year. It could be maybe your little side project that you keep doing on top of everything else that you're doing. Because if you can, I'm sure there'll be lots of people looking for it.
One of the things for Icelandic poppies, fall planting, because they like to grow cool. And if you have them in a protected hoop, they'll get tall and tall, and the stems will be strong. Picked just when the color's barely cracking, and put right into a cooler. And you'll get vase life from them. Greenery.
Greenery. Do flower farms grow greenery? Do they not grow greenery?
I think you need to grow greenery. I think one of, as I'm retiring, I think of things I haven't done well. I don't think I've educated florists and designers very well on greenery possibilities. I haven't explored that myself. I think there's a whole world there to explore. Branches, like non-flowering foliage branches, were in the top 3 sellers in the flower hubs across Canada this year, right? So all different kinds of branches out there. So there's definitely possibilities there in design work, like great for installs. But I think for arrangement greenery too, I think there's various things that we've got. You mentioned the Baptisia. even peony foliage is a lovely foliage, especially if it's starting to turn that red color a little bit. So I think that's a good one. I think I mentioned the Artemisia when I thought that was Artemisia instead of Solidago. But also things like herbs in the herb family. Basils. Tall basils that are in flower or that are starting to go to seed.
Hostas, you could do hostas. I think that there's a really big market here for all of it. Greenery, sticks and twigs and vines for sure.
Vines for sure. Lots of people asking for vines.
And especially in design work and large installation work, there's a lot of all of that. So I think like showcase that. If you have an online website or you're working with a hub, showcase it. Start telling people that. Include it in your lookbooks or your little devices that you're going to bring to your interviews for new flower shops. Don't limit yourself. Like sell anything and everything that you possibly can, because you don't know what someone might be looking for.
Exactly.
And if someone comes to you looking for a vine or branches or something, like think outside the box on what you have on your farm. Maybe it's not something you planted specifically to sell, but that one time you can cut from something that's been there for years and years and years that you've never looked at. Do that, because that's going the extra mile for your client. And everyone appreciates that.
And do vase tests all the time. Like every time you're out cutting and you see something and you think, gee, I wonder, like don't post it on Facebook. I wonder if, like, test it out yourself. Pick it and test it and then post what you found. Hey, I did this trial of, and share it that way. Because I see lots of people asking, what is the vase life on? What is the vase life off? And I just think, well,
try it. Go to a flower shop and buy one. Yeah.
We could go on about lots of other flowers because there's so many things we haven't touched. I'm thinking of more, but we'll save it for another day. I think we'll wrap up.
Yeah.
Perfect. So what do we say about local flowers, and what are the advantages of local flowers in flower shops?
I think that it opens up the conversation a little bit more. I know we didn't touch much on sustainability, but I do think that it is a conversation that we should be leaning towards as flower shops and educating our customer base on that. So working with local flowers, I think that's the start of that conversation. I think there's a uniqueness that we can bring rather than just always working with larger wholesalers and imports.
And people are looking for that. People are open to seeing new flowers, new kind of design ethics. People want to see that.
Yeah, especially as the younger generation starts getting into flower buying. You're going to start seeing trends change and aesthetics change, which are all really great things. So you want to kind of stay on top of that. I think local flower buying is one of the ways to do that. There's a couple things I can think of right off the top of my head.
Supporting local economies too.
Absolutely.
Here you are, a local business and another local business working in partnership. So you're benefiting each other. And it certainly is a moment where people are thinking about local and local purchases a little bit more. So it's a good time to be capitalizing on that as well, I think. I think that's great.
I think too, like the customer relation that we have with our customers, sometimes it can feel so distant when you don't really know where your stuff is coming from that you're providing to your customer. But there's a very close-knit kind of approach that you can offer to your clients, selling them local stuff. Like that came right out of down the street or the town next over.
Exactly.
Like that, there's a much more personable aspect to that. When you're working in an industry where people are buying flowers as gifts, they're buying something that's local and buying something that is from their home and giving it. It feels a little more personal.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, on your packaging, like you should be all over locally grown, you know, grown, not flown. And there's no reason not to be saying that, because you are selling an experience as not just a flower. So I think there's lots of advantages. And I think at this point, you know, I was just looking at the flower hubs across Canada and their stats, and the average 20% growth over last year. So, and that's been year on year. So it looks like it's going to continue for a while. And that's it. happy flower farming. I want to take a minute and thank Haley
Yeah.
for spending her time with this. A little disclosure, I should say. This is our second take because last week we did this. We recorded the whole thing, and then I found out that my mic wasn't on. This is my saga. My sagas as I'm trying to learn this technology.
Yeah.
So double thanks to Haley for doing it twice with me, and I appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you later. If you're looking for some more resources, we've put together some resource guides for you as part of the Open Flower Network project, and the links to get to those are on the screen. Thanks.